Hi, my name is Stephen Nill. I'm a publisher with CharityChannel. We publish under a couple of imprints. One of them is CharityChannel Press, where we publish books by busy but really smart and experienced nonprofit sector practitioners. Pam is somebody who has published a book through our press. I'm pleased to say one of my favorite authors and one of my favorite books. So I'm in my recording studio doing some music and got a note saying, hey, I'm doing a session tomorrow. I know this is short notice, but if you have a couple of minutes, would you mind recording something that talks about how to move one's career forward? Those aren't her exact words. I don't have the thing up in front of me at the moment, but that's the gist of it as a nonprofit sector practitioner. And I'm happy to talk about that. The thing that I've observed, and I've been in the sector for a few decades now, and of course I have my own career to look back on and think about in terms of talking about this. But I also have been an observer of lots and lots of other practitioners' careers, and I think I've played a role in helping many of them advance their careers by virtue of publishing books and also articles. So it's a topic that is fun to talk about, and I'm going to keep it brief here. I think the thing that I'd like to start with is the mindset. You may be somebody who is at a low level or even a high level, in an organization, or maybe you're a consultant. I don't know. And it doesn't really matter, because I want you to think about the fact that wherever you are ensconced, you are in a box. Okay. I am in a box. And that box represents sort of a ceiling of where forces would like to sort of keep us. It represents a floor where we're standing that represents what we've achieved so far in our careers. The sides represent the fact that we're in some organization. If there may be organizations out there to the left and to the right. So think of yourself as being in a box. And I don't care if you're the CEO or executive director of your organization. You're in a box, all right? If you take nothing else from what I'm about to say, it's this. Bust out, all right? Bust out of that box, because the world isn't going to do it for you. Now, you will have allies, you will have help, but it starts with you. Now, if you have two people who have comparable skills, comparable background, training, experience, which one is likely to gain advancement in their career, and which is likely to have the most impact on philanthropy? Because as nonprofit practitioners, we care about both of those things. We want to advance in our careers, or we should. If we don't, well, then why are we here? But we chose to work in the nonprofit sector, most of us, because we want to make a difference. Or maybe we stumbled into it and now we realize that we can make a difference. And so the nonprofit practitioners that I know and admire want to both advance their career, and they want to have a maximum impact on the world in a positive way. And we're in a unique position to do that. But if there are two equally qualified people, the one who is going to move in the direction of accomplishing career advancement and having impact on the world in a really positive way is the one who shines a light on themselves, or put it another way if you want, lets their own light shine. And there's lots of ways to do that. I'm just going to talk about writing and speaking here as the primary ways. So the first thing is, of course, writing. And I know that from Pam's note to me that you have someone talking about blogging and that sort of thing, and someone else talking about self-publishing. And I assume she's interested in me talking about publishing a book with a traditional publisher, because Charity Channel, among other things, has publishing imprints. One of them is CharityChannel Press, and we publish books. We publish PAMs, as I mentioned. The first thing I want to say is you should, at the very least, start thinking about writing articles. Now, I have a particular bias. I'm tired of 4 to 5 paragraph bloggy posts. I think it's fine for what it is. It'll build an audience. You could build a list. It's easy. It's quick. You're busy. I get all of that. But what your practitioners, colleagues really need to be reading about is that huge challenge you encountered, and it almost defeated you, but you found a way. Somehow you fought back and you found a way toward victory, and here's how you did it. You know, in the real world, our jobs are hard, and nobody ever bats 1,000. We get defeated sometimes, and it's in those defeats that we learn the most. And so if you can sit down and think about an article about something that you encountered in your profession, and you can write at least a couple of thousand words about that, or even a series, that is gold, because that is the stuff that makes you a leader, and people will begin to sit up and take notice if you go deep. All right. There are lots of ways to publish your articles. One is to set up maybe a WordPress site or a Squarespace site or Wix or whatever. And, you know, they all have blogging features. So do that and build a list, you know, have a sign up form and build a list, get a following. You should be able to develop 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people following you inside of a year if you really push it. And, you know, and stick to a schedule, set up a schedule. Too many people start a blog and, you know, it's like every 3 or 4 months, whether they need to or not, they write something. I think if you really want to make a difference, you ought to be publishing at least 1 article a month. And I would recommend 2 a month or 3 a month if you can. I mean, it's a serious effort. But, you know, something magic starts to happen when you do that. You begin to get a glimpse of a possible book you might be writing. And I've had authors take several dozen blogs and stitch them together and massage them into entire books, or at least get the germ of an idea from a blog that they post, and you say, you know, this is so cool. This is so interesting and so different from what I've been hearing others talk about. I want to write a book about it. So it can be the spark of a book. So don't underestimate writing. Where else can you publish? You know, maybe you could write an article for the Chronicle of Philanthropy, or AFP is publishing quite a bit these days. CharityChannel Press, Charity Channel, has been publishing articles of our nonprofit peers since 2001. And we've published thousands of articles. And we edit them. In fact, I'm the editor very carefully, and we work with you to really perfect and polish your articles. So we're another outlet. You have to apply in our case. You have to have background and experience. You can't just be a newbie. But you have to, you know, not only have the background, but you have to be willing to tell it like it is, you know, just the good, the bad, and the ugly, because your peers are reading the article and they want to learn from you, and they learn by you being really forthright about your challenges, successes, and even your failures. So if you're interested in Charity Channel Press, you can go onto our website, and there's an application online, a form to apply to become a member of the Charity Channel Contributors Panel. But there are plenty of outlets that want writing, and that's a great way to become known. Books, of course, really, really important. And I think you've probably heard a lot about self-publishing, or you will. I'm not sure where you are in the program when I'm recording this. I am a huge advocate, whether you expect it or not, because I'm a traditional publisher, of self-publishing. I think self-publishing has so many advantages. The primary drawback is you have to take responsibility to do all of the pieces of it. You don't have a publishing house doing that for you and walking every step with you. But these days there are so many resources for self-published authors, or otherwise known as indie authors, that it's a really, really great way to get published. And I'm a huge advocate of it. In fact, I don't really advertise it, but I privately work with authors who want help in self-publishing. I consult to them. I believe in it that much. Traditional publishing is another way to go. You will be giving up anywhere from 80 to 90% of the sales proceeds to the publishing house, but in return, you get a full suite of editing services, marketing services. You don't have to worry about how it's going to wind up in the Barnes and Noble online, or even bricks and mortar bookstore. The publisher worries about that. Amazon, all that stuff is done for you. And in Charity Channel's case, we've been around for a quarter century and have a substantial professional community to promote our books to. So that's something that makes us a little unique in that way. But you don't need to go to a traditional publisher to publish your book, and there are plenty of options. The other one downside of a traditional publishing is it's really hard to interest a publisher in a book anymore, because there are relatively few publishing houses focused on nonprofit sector topics these days. There's a big one, Wiley, although they are. It's hard to say where Wiley is right now in terms of publishing. There's another Ma and Pa type of operation, which is great, very niche-y publisher, an excellent one, by the way, and one I admire. And then there's us, we're in the middle. And if you propose a book, you have to be prepared to explain why it's different than something we've already published. And since we're rounding up on 100 titles, that's increasingly hard to do. So I really think if I were going to publish a book these days, I would go with, I would become an indie publisher. I'd publish my own book. I would, if I needed to get help with any piece of it, whether it was editing or layout or just how to get it out there in the bookstores, online and offline, then I would engage someone to advise me on that. But I would keep the title myself. I would publish it myself. So I think that's a super great way to go. And I say that as a traditional publisher, so I guess I'm pretty sincere about that. I think writing is absolutely critical, but so is speaking. And the traditional speaking is, of course, to propose to speak at a professional association conference, and that's great. There are plenty of them. AFP International's annual conference is the largest, and there's lots and lots of others. If you're a grant writer, Grant Professionals Association has conferences, or if you're in healthcare, AHP. Higher education is CASE. I've spoken at all of those over the years. I keynoted most of them at one time or other. And the writing and speaking go hand in glove, especially if your speaking topics line up with your book topics, right? And your article topics. And the point is, if you do these kinds of things, you're thinking out of the box for you. Your box is going to start to change quite a bit. It's going to become richer, and more opportunities are going to come your way. You can always break out of that box too. I guess it sounds like I'm getting choked up. This is unrehearsed. Absolutely no preparation, except I always have my coffee. So excuse me one second. All right. So that's it. To recap, you're in a box. To break out of that box, you need to do something to gain attention in a favorable way. That's writing articles, that's writing a book, maybe more than one, and it's speaking. And by the way, on speaking, you consider becoming a media resource. I myself have been for many years a subject matter expert for Forbes magazine. I have, for many years, I stopped doing it because of my schedule, but I was on CNBC, CNN, Fox News, all the time relating to nonprofit charity scandals. That was my niche. As a lawyer, I did crisis management and running Charity Channel. I was in a position to speak on behalf of the profession, and I did. So, speaking should not just be limited to conferences. You can even contact. Journalists are dying for knowledgeable people to go on the record and give them a quote, or off the record and tell them what's really happening. There are services that you can make yourself available through where they'll look for you. I believe one is HARO, Help a Reporter Out. It's been a while since I've been involved with that, but check that out. So take charge of your career advancement. Remember, someone who's comparably qualified as you, but who doesn't do these things, is going to stay in their box. And that's fine. If that's their ambition, is to stay static, move up very rarely, have little but occasional victories when it comes to philanthropy, that's fine. But you can be special and extraordinary, and you just have to set a plan and get going. And I did all of those things, and I feel I was successful in my career, which is winding down these days. So hopefully this is of help to you. Okay, all right, Pam. I hope I did what you wanted. You're one of my faves, and so I hope I didn't bomb too badly, and I hope your people learned a little bit from me there. Okay, take care now. Bye.